OTP application, so he can actually have it installed on his iPhone or Android or BlackBerry, anything. He has to install his OTP application, and using these instructions, he can actually generate the OTP. So here for demo purpose, I'm actually using an OTP desktop client wherein the OTP gets generated here. So it has a limited time. So user has logged into the CloudMinder portal using this OTP advanced authentication. Now after he has logged in, the administrator might have given him some of the services, like he can access some of the applications, so he can self-subscribe to those applications. So he can request those applications which are available to him. So right now this user has permissions to access Google applications and Salesforce applications. So as soon as he requests these applications, the user will be provisioned to his endpoint applications like Google or SFTC.
And that's using SAML, right? So
Yeah, that's using
that's
SAML.
using SAML. So as soon as you create the user, it's going in and creating the IDs in the cloud applications.
The user which we have logged in is actually provisioned to Google Apps, and he will be he can SSO to these applications, federated SSO to which he has actually requested without giving additional credentials.
This can be for any cloud service,
Any
right?
cloud
So as
Any
long as
cloud
you can integrate the cloud service that accepts SAML, right? So that is the key. You can use federated identity. So then you get not only the identity being and also the single sign-on, right? So you can then use the same 2FA that you use to log into CloudMinder to be able to access any of these cloud services, provided they are, SAML compliant. So that is kind of what we were.
Yeah, and also another beauty is you can actually define a workflow process wherein the tenant administrator can define a workflow process to provision this particular user need an approval from so and so X, and then single step or two step approval. So once that approval has happened, then the user can be provisioned. So as an MSP or a CSP, you can actually define the various workflow definitions based on when you want to provision and what level of approval is required to provision these users.
So we go to the next use case, which is about using his social account credentials to actually log into the CloudMinder.
This is the OAuth use case, right?
Yes,
This
this
one
is the
was
OAuth.
the SAML use case. So this use case is using OAuth, leveraging the social identity.
the user tries this authentication. So he is redirected to the Facebook authentication. So the user, this is the new user which is not present in CloudMinder currently. So the user is asked to register for CloudMinder. So we have the OAuth authentication has taken place, and we have got the attributes of that Facebook user to CloudMinder.
So this is what I was saying. Not only here, you can get additional attributes. So this
like
is where
the
social
password.
identity linking makes sense, right? So I can now, with the assertion I can get, or with OAuth I can get additional attributes, not only just ID and password, but more information about what the user is, and use that for whatever I need if I'm providing a service, right? So that is the advantage of using social identities.
So we have generally now got first name, last name, email, username. I mean, we can get other attributes as well. So since this is the new user which has actually come here, so he has asked for this self-registration process. But when he tries to log in again, it will directly go to the server.
Any questions? Okay, thanks. Now we will show the ControlMinder privileged password management solution as well. So Uma will walk you through the demonstration of.
Welcome everybody, I'm Uma here. I will just show you a short demo of this ControlMinder, as Sumant said, which takes care of this password management. So it's a password management tool, and I will just give you a quick demo. Before getting into the demo, just very quickly, like what all we basically deal with in ControlMinder. We say that this tool is used for managing passwords. We basically deal with endpoints and the accounts or users residing within the endpoints. So to do all these things, what do we actually need from the ControlMinder side? On the top, you see the super admin, who is the administrator of ControlMinder, who takes care of all the administrative stuff. So the super admin creates SAM users. These users are created in the database, ControlMinder database, who have access to our ControlMinder. So these users can log in and they can raise requests to access accounts from different machines, and they can use these accounts and log into the machines and do whatever work they want to do on. So if you just have a look at this, we have the super admin who creates different groups for managing different kinds of accounts, say Windows, Oracle, and SSH groups. And within these groups, within each groups, he creates SAM users and assigns these users to the groups. And for example, if you take these this Windows SAM users, these set of users would be able to manage only Windows accounts. And similarly, say SSH SAM users would be able to manage only SSH accounts.
Will not manage checkout privilege
Yeah,
accounts.
work, yeah.
So this is about checking out the privilege accounts on those endpoints. This is just an example of how you can classify the.
So let me log into ControlMinder. So I'm logging into ControlMinder using super admin. So as a super admin, if I get into the home and view the accounts, you can see that it will display all the accounts and the endpoints that are configured with our ControlMinder. So all these are SSH device, are Unix-based accounts. The super admin will be able to manage all these are Windows accounts. So whatever endpoints we have, all these endpoints and the accounts are visible for the super admin, and he will be able to manage all of these. So I'm going to explain quickly two scenarios where the first scenario I would show how a SAM user who is allowed to access only SSH accounts can place a request and get the approval from his manager. So I log in as this SAM user, SSH user, and I go and raise a request to access SSH accounts alone. When I give a search, you see that this particular SAM user has access only to SSH device accounts. So I go and choose a couple of accounts and placing a request for access of these accounts. I can specify the duration. Let it be the default, and I submit it. So what happens is this request goes to the manager of this particular SAM user. So all these configurations are already done by the super admin. So I log in as the manager and I go and approve. You can see that these two requests have come to the manager. Manager is this SSH manager SAM user. I select, it depends on the manager whether he wants to approve the request or reject it. So in our case, I'm approving both the requests. So once the approval is done, the SSH SAM user will be able to see both the accounts in his list. Go to my privileged accounts, and both the approved accounts will be listed down in this list. We have this, it's listed here. So this is how the workflow takes place, where depending on the SAM users and depending on the kind of accounts that you need to provide access for, you can create tasks and roles and assign it to users. So this is one use case. And the next use case that I would like to show is, say when a user checks out an account and he logs into this Unix box and he does actions, how do I actually do a session recording? So this SAM user has requested for these accounts, and say he takes this particular account and he wants to log into this machine. So what I do is I've already created a login application for this particular endpoint, using which the user can access the Unix machine. This scenario would be applicable when the superadmin feels that the normal user, should not have the access, or should not know what the password is. So using this particular login application, what happens is the user is able to log into the Unix machine or whatever machine, but the user never sees what the password is. The user works on the box, but he never gets to see what the password is. So after logging into the box, whatever action the user performs, everything gets recorded using our Observe IT agent, which is actually installed. And later, if at all the superadmin wants to see what the user has done.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you provide access to a particular Unix box, right? But can you go much more granular, like controlling what level of commands he can do?
That's done using the control manager agent that's installed on the Unix server. So that is the OS level controls. So privilege ID management is about getting you access with a privileged account and logging you in and recording the session. Once you get into the Unix box, then the control manager has an agent that does fine-grained access controls. What files can you access? What services can you? What registry keys? All of that, right? So that's the second part of the solution.
So Sumant, is there anything linked to compliance with ITAR requirements?
Right now, the compliance, we have it with the generic like HIPAA and SOX and all PCI, but there are policies that are available that you can just use and deploy. So what normally we say is that we have a list of policies that are generally the best practice recommended to address a certain compliance need, like a PCI, for example. We don't have it for like, not yet. But something that can be done quite, it's just a policy rule, that's all. So that these policies can be implemented to harden the operating system so that it's compliant to a specific, not fully compliant, but at least it's a baseline policy, right? So because PCI, for example, says if you're storing credit card data, you need to be able to monitor certain files. You need to be able to ensure that the root cannot do this. So there are certain, so all of those policies will be in there.
Okay, log in.
Yeah, I've logged in.
Can I see groups and then configure the agents? Or is it do I need to always do it at the agent level, at the endpoint?
So can you put the endpoints in groups is the question.
We can get the approvals, like we are using this IAM framework only. So I think yes, very well we can do it.
So right now the endpoints, you're talking about putting endpoints in groups. Yeah, that can be done, right? So now you saw that, I don't know whether you saw it, but it was logged in directly without the password.
The user never gave any password, we are logged in. So let me just execute
Because
a.
if you see in the first screen, like we have created the group and we have added all these SSH connections into a particular group only. And that's the reason, like once a user logs in, he only sees the SSH. Same way, like we
It's a
have
logical group, right? I mean,
When you create an endpoint itself, you can associate a login application to it. So all the accounts falling into the endpoint, you'll be able to.
he's talking about the endpoints in groups, not accounts in endpoints. Endpoints in groups. So just run a couple of commands and then.
I ran a couple of commands and I exit. The moment the user exits out, his password gets checked.
It's a one-time password, right? So privileged ID management is using an OTP. As soon as the password is checked back in it, the new password is again changed on the endpoint. So that the next person who checks out the password, the next out gets a different password. So that's why the end user never knows what the password is. And then they will just use the privileged ID management system to do the checkout and the check-in.
Does it get the user AD?
Yeah, you can do both. You can create your own data store or you can use AD as a user store, which means it leverages all the user IDs from AD and the groups from there also.
And you can maintain different levels of access.
Whatever it is, yeah, if AD is whatever your groups, you can use the same and you can authorize only specific group to check out the account.
Sumant, can we take a break now?
2 moments. 2 moments. That's okay. Any other questions? Just show the recording. Yeah.
What happens if the password expires? Does it automatically take or you
Yeah, it'll take it automatically.
take it?
That's why normally we recommend AD as the user store. That way all your user information is already in AD and you can leverage the same without having to create another user. Otherwise you can use our own DB and put another user, but that means you have to now manage an ID and a password additionally, right? If you leverage AD, you can just use the AD credentials to log in and also use the group privileges of AD.
I think
And to assign
problem.
That's okay, fine. Yeah, don't worry, thanks. Tarun,
Thanks so much. Thanks, Sudhanshu, Sridhar, Sumant and the team. I'm sure you got a brief glimpse of what we can do, a little hands-on of it. It's a logical time for us to get some more fuel to the system. So it's time for lunch break. We'll step out again. The same. We have to follow Astha. So Astha is the one who will direct us to the food court. Also on for your systems, there is a live feedback system. So it will just take 30 seconds.